I grew up in a very traditional Chinese value family, and my parents always taught me if I have anything, I need to internalize those emotions. And that's quite contradictory to what an actor does.
Yes.
So for me, to really go there emotionally, I spent a lot of time just being with myself and just persuading myself to open that door and let those emotions out. And I guess that door swung wide open because now I can't do an interview without crying,
Hey, good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for coming out. My name's Jenelle Riley. I'm an editor at Variety. Well, thank you, but if that impresses you, wait until you see who we have here. Please join me in welcoming. First, we have a SAG award-winning actor you've seen in The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel and Awkwafina is Nora from Queens. For her role, or actually roles in this film, she is also nominated for an Independent Spirit Award. Please welcome Stephanie Hsu. Also joining us is the actor who portrays Wei-Min Wang, for which he's already won a Gotham Award and been nominated for a Golden Globe, Critics' Choice, and Independent Spirit Award. Please welcome Ke Huy Quan. Thank you both so much for being here. Congratulations on a movie I love so much. Congratulations on those shoes I just noticed. Those are fantastic. This is an audience of your fellow SAG-AFTRA actors. So I actually always like to start by asking, how did you get your SAG card? What was the job that brought that to you? I know Stephanie has to have one because you're a SAG award winner.
That's right, you're right. I am. Actually, when I first moved to LA, from New York, I had no furniture, and the first thing that I got was a SAG award for Maisel. I flew out for that ceremony, and then I had an empty apartment and a SAG award. It was very LA. I got my SAG award. I'm so sorry. No, I got my SAG card. I got Taft-Hartley'd in.
No way.
It's actually kind of a beautiful story. I didn't want an agent. And I was in downtown theater, and I was really scrappy, and I was like, no, I'm gonna, yeah. And I met this agent who was a commercial agent who saw me in a show when I was in college, and she was like, the moment you get out, call me. And so I called her, and I booked a commercial, and on that commercial, the director pulled me aside, and he said, next week, I'm gonna call you back for something else. And I just want you to know that I want you to do it. And so he booked me on 2 commercials in a row, which at the time I knew nothing about residuals or anything. And that's how I got my SAG card, basically from doing those 2 back-to-back jobs.
Can we go back to that part where you didn't want an agent?
Yeah. The Daniels don't have an agent, our directors.
You're right.
I think mostly I'll be honest and say that I am young, but even when I was coming up, I remember I studied at NYU. There were two Asian people in the whole department. There were maybe 5 people of color. That's it. And I think I just knew, I knew in the back of my head that if I were to really pursue a commercial way of acting, that it wouldn't be artistically satisfying at that time. Yeah. What people were still wanting people of color to do just wasn't artistically satisfying. And so I didn't want to go down that route. And so I sort of got pulled into the more mainstream world in a very backdoor kind of way.
Wow. Well, I'm so glad you did. Thanks. Ke, for you?
Oh, for me, I didn't go looking to be an actor. It somehow found me when Steven Spielberg was looking for an Asian kid to be in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Thank you. By the way, thank you so much for coming.
Yes, thank you for being here.
And happy holidays. Yeah, and so that was my very first job, and that's how I got my Screen Actors Guild card. It was called back then. It was just Screen Actors Guild. And the funny thing is, or the most interesting is, when I stepped away from acting in 2000, for some reason, I just kept on paying my annual dues.
Good. You get screeners.
Yeah. So I never, and even though I didn't think that I would ever, be an actor again, every year when those dues came in, I would just pay them, and I wouldn't even hesitate. Wow. And I would just pay them, and I was just like thinking, there was like one particular year where I was thinking, why am I still paying this? Even like when I have no intention of being an actor again. I guess somehow, like subconsciously, I did not want to be a member. And if I did stop paying, any chance of me becoming an actor again would be completely gone. So I just kept paying for 20 years. So actors, pay your dues.
Some part of you knew maybe on some level.
Yeah, I guess. But it's because when I got the call from the Daniels and our producer Jonathan Wong, and when they said, Ke, we want you to play Wayman. And the first question they asked me was, are you a member of the Screen Actors Guild? Really? Because I haven't acted for so long.
Yeah.
So they were just afraid that I'm not a member, and then they would have to offer the role to somebody else. No, I'm just guessing, but luckily I was. I just kept on paying my dues for more than 20 years. Yeah.
Forgive me. Oh, no, go ahead.
Wait, can I quickly ask how many people is everybody an actor here?
I think so.
Yeah, and then how many people was that their first time seeing it?
Oh, isn't that crazy?
Cool.
Wow.
Okay, cool. It's nice to get a temperature check,
Forgive me if this has been like publicized or somewhere. I've been in a moving haze. Have you run into Spielberg lately? Because you've got to be crossing paths out of it. I know you've
ever
seen
since
Harrison.
our movie came out, and I was so looking forward to hearing from him, to see what he thinks. Because I love this man.
Yeah.
He gave me my first job. He changed my life for the better. And everywhere I go, or when I do interviews, people would ask, have you heard from Steven? And I haven't. Until I get a Christmas present from him every year.
Aww.
And every Christmas is my favorite holidays of the year, and I would always look forward to this time, hearing those wonderful Christmas songs, watching those wonderful Christmas lights when I'm driving, and one of the moments that I always love is when that package arrived, when that present arrived from Steven. I always love it. It always warms my heart, and for this particular year, I got a card from him, and he told me he saw the movie. But so it was a very sweet note. And like I said, I just love him to death. Yeah.
Oh my God. I'd love to start at the beginning with Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is so unique and truly special. It comes to us from the directors known as the Daniels. Can you talk about how this project found its way to you? And I don't know if there's like a 20-second elevator pitch that they can give you, or if they just have to read a script. And let's start with Stephanie, because you had worked with them before.
Yeah. I want to say this go back to agents for a hot second. No, because I think it's important, right? I think it's, I feel like especially in Los Angeles, from my experience, it feels like that is the end all be all. And why I love the Daniels, why I love this movie, why I love its surprise and how far it's going is because it truly came from a art heart place. And I feel like it's really important to sort of make this very hierarchical industry feel more horizontal. Mm-hmm. And so it's not saying that agents are bad. I love my agents, but that all the weight, especially when you're an actor and you're looking for the next big thing or whatever, you're hoping that someone's going to call you and give you the opportunity. But what the Daniels teach me, and I feel like what the New York downtown scene taught me, is you have to make that space for yourself. You really, if you're trying to say something, you have to say it. So I just wanted to say that real quick, totally. Because I feel like that's important to remember, even for myself. The Daniels, yes. Okay, so I met the Daniels doing an episode of Nora from Queens. It's a really silly episode, and we fell in love immediately. It was like the first day on set, they were blowing a leaf blower in my face. I was like speed rapping a song, and it was then at the end of the night, Daniel Shiner got up on a ladder and dumped mud on my body in slow-mo. This was all for the camera. And I was like, these guys are it for me. And we just really understood each other. So I came out to LA, basically followed them out, and they called me within a week and said, hey, we're working on a movie, no pressure, but we think you'd be really great for it. And I think I had, to their credit, the script, everything you see in the movie, the heartbeat of it, the chaos, and also somehow the fact that it makes sense is all in the script. So it's not as crazy as it seems, right? You're like, sure, hot dog fingers, but they're funny. And so I think because I knew their sense of humor, none of the outlandish stuff seemed surprising to me. What was actually the most impressive thing was that the story was so clear, the story of this family trying to find each other.
And for you, they reached out to you too. I think, was it Daniel Kwan?
I think it was, as fate would have it, because I haven't done it for more than 20 years. So when I decided to get back into acting and got myself an agent, and this is after not having an agent more than 2 decades, at the same time, the Daniels were looking for an actor to play Wayman. And they came upon a post on someone's YouTube page. And it had a GIF of a picture of Andrew Yang. And the caption said, Short Round is all grown up and running for president. But what's so great about it, that's why I thank Andrew Yang for this, it triggered the Daniels to go online and search, I wonder how old Ke is now and what's he doing. And this was at the same time that I decided to get back into acting. And literally 2 weeks later, I got a call from my agent and says, there is this, little project that stars Michelle Yeoh. And I go, what? Because I'm a huge fan of Michelle's for many, many, many years. And I didn't think I would get it. And I think, as actors, you all know when there's a role that you want so badly.
Yep.
And you give it your all. Like I was so hungry for an opportunity like this. And when I read the script, for some reason, because this was a script that I wanted to read for decades, I understood it. And normally I don't understand every script I read, but for this one, as complicated, as multiverse as it was, I understood every bit of it. And I told my wife, I said, I think this role is written for me. And I want it with all my heart. I got myself an acting coach to prep me for the audition process. Because I was just so nervous. I wanted it so badly. So this is how I first came upon this script.
Wow.
Yeah.
By the way, I think Andrew Yang was more Data as a kid than Short Round, in my opinion. But that's just.
I ran into I attended an event called the Go House. And he happened to be there. He was just sitting like one table away from me, and I said, I have to go up to him and thank him because it's him. It's because of him that I got this role, And yeah, it was just great meeting him then and telling him this story.
Wow! Did he ask you for 20%? So this is your first time back in an audition room in 20 years?
More than 20 years.
What was it like?
I would say more than 25 years. I remember distinctly, it was, I walked into Sarah Finn, who is our casting director. Wonderful, wonderful lady. And I always feel like casting directors are the unsung heroes of our movie because they're the gatekeeper. We have to get past them to get any role. And I remember walking into an office, and there was this little camera. The 2 Daniels were behind it. And I can hear my heart pounding. I was just so nervous. And I was prepared. I know all my lines, but when you're in that room with the camera and not having done it for so long, I was just so nervous. But luckily the Daniels are such great directors. They really know how to direct actors and know how to calm us down, and they were like giving me notes as I was auditioning. And it was in that room, I was immediately transported back to 1984 when Spielberg was directing me on Temple of Doom. because that's what he would do. He would just scream out notes. Ke, say your line this way. Ke, say your line that way. Look over there. Look over here. Now, get really scared. Now run out of it. That's what the Daniels were doing. And all of a sudden, I felt like a kid again, and I felt happy in that room. I all those wonderful feelings of me being an actor, being in front of a camera, came flooding back in, and I was enjoying myself in a very, very long time.
Wow.
And I was so happy. I walked out of there, called my agent, and I said, "Yeah, I did really good." And then I didn't hear from them for 2 months. And so any hope of me like landing in the role was like completely gone. And then luckily, they call back and they say, we want you to come in and read again. Wow. And
that's amazing. And Stephanie, I don't know if you knew that they were going to do this, but they put one of your auditions online recently and people went crazy because can you not watch your own?
Oh no, I gave them consent to do that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, they surprised me. Yeah, I don't have like Twitter or anything, and I don't really know how those things work. But the Daniels were like, your audition video is going viral. And I'm like, what? Thank God. Thank God it's for good reasons, because that would be crazy if they just put that out into the world and people were like, anyway, the internet's a brutal place. Yes, yeah. Were you going to ask a question?
My family called me.
Oh, yeah?
And said, can you please tell Stephanie, we saw the audition tape and it's one of the best audition tape we've ever seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think actors know better than anyone. Like, people might see your performance and be like, yeah, of course that was an amazing audition. But you are 100% there already in the character. It's so shocking. It was a little jarring because back then Evelyn was called Michelle.
Yes.
So it took me a second to put that together. But how much did you prepare for that audition? Are you just that good every time you go in?
I mean, certainly I'm not good every single time I go in. I think that certain parts are right for certain people. But I will say that seeing that video was really healing for me, actually, because once you make something, it sort of leaves you and it becomes something else. And when the movie came out in the world, people were like, that character's so crazy, so wild, the costumes, the ding, 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 the dildos. And I was like, yeah, all those things. And I think and we filmed that audition was in 2019. We filmed in 2020, pre-pandemic. So much life has happened. And I think I kind of lost touch with those very early seeds, and I was getting this thing in the Hamptons, and the Daniels surprised me with a video, and the first thing I said after I saw it in public was like, I think I really got this movie. I really understood it. I do think that our Echo, our translator, Ke's wife, who's our secret weapon, she says our script has a soul and it attracted like-minded souls to tell it. But the thing about the audition, and what I will say, what I love to do is I love to play and I love to collaborate. I'm a really big picture kind of actor. I want to see the lookbook. I want to hear the playlist. I want to know the questions that are being asked, why the film wants to be told. And the Daniels were really open in sharing that with me. And so I feel like that audition was possible, not only because they also trusted me and gave me so much permission to play that I felt so safe to try things. And that is, I think, every time I walk into a room, that is my dream, right? I'm like, I don't have this fully baked. I don't know. You've been writing this for 5 years. I can't hear what you're seeing on the page. And to be able to have a room where you can really start to discover together and let yourself be surprised and make a mess, that is so satisfying as an artist, But I think that character is also really special in that it's so rare that you get to see a villain that is also has such a wild spirit, but it's rooted in a family story. So, I think I've always been drawn to films that have sort of big philosophical cores, but are really about a small slice of life. Yeah.
Yeah. And the family in this, it's so important, and you really do feel like a family. You know, that means all the good and bad that entails. I'm sort of curious, when did you first all sort of meet? Was it a table read? Did either of you do a chemistry read with Michelle or anything like that?
No. The first time we all met each other was a rehearsal, a table read. Wow. But I also think because we have similar backgrounds, and we bonded immediately. Like within half an hour, it felt like a family. I remember the Daniels were there, James Hong was there, Michelle, Stephanie, and I, and yeah, within like half an hour into the reading, if we took like a family photo of just the four of us, and I look at it and go, wow, this looks like a family.
Yeah.
And yeah, it didn't take us long to and then, you know, with Michelle Yeoh, I mean, you know, she's our matriarch. And she's just so kind and generous and funny, and it wasn't hard to love her, you know, and to love Stephanie and of course and James. We just had the best of time. It was just this little movie we did in Simi Valley before the pandemic, and we thought we would be lucky if we can make our money back, so that A24 or any other, you know, movie production company would greenlight more stories like this. And here we are talking to all of you. Yes. It's just a wonderful feeling. Yeah.
Michelle is so wonderful. On the flip side of that, is it ever? I mean, you go toe to toe with Michelle Yeoh and come out on top sometimes. So, was it ever intimidating?
Yes. However, Michelle truly is so extraordinary. She's so generous as a scene partner, as a collaborator, and she really set the tone for our set. So she didn't make it feel like I'm Michelle Yeoh. She completely surrendered to the process, and I feel like she is such a beautiful example of what it means to be number one on the call sheet. It's not about even just the craft, which obviously she has and is so immensely skilled in the legacy that she has built, but also she, a true artist, a true leader, is someone who makes everyone feel safe and seen and cared for. And she really brought that into this movie. And I feel so grateful, because I really, in hindsight, realize how she could have been like, who are you? You know, like, Joy, why do you look so stupid? Like, Stephanie, why do you look so stupid? You know? But instead she was along for the ride. So.
And because of the multiple universes, you're really playing several different characters or versions of the same character, but they're really wildly different. Did you, knowing it's an independent film, did you ever have to play more than one character in one day? Like, what was the maximum amount of characters you pulled off in a day?
Actually, one of my favorite shorthands that we created. So I always say that Joy and Jobu are two different extremes of the same core. Like, they actually share the same heartbeat, but they expel it in very different ways. And that core is nihilism and this concept that nothing matters. And my favorite piece of thing that we started to play with, the Daniels and I, we created a third character, which we called Joy Boo. And that was, there was no definition. It was just a combination of Joy and Jobu. So sometimes we would do a scene where it, on paper, read like a Jobu scene, but they would be like, okay, let's do a take and let's do a Joy Boo take. And it would just be like how to kind of surrender and weave through moments that are Joy and Jobu, just let it kind of flow out, because that is essentially what that character is. It is still the daughter, but the daughter is also the villain. So constantly switching hats. But I think that that's what's fun about her. And that's what makes you, I think, in the movie as a whole, it makes you, you know, as chaos is continually happening, you're still, if the movie works for you, you're still somehow emotionally invested and you don't know why. And I think it's because of that. You know, it's because we are trying to take you somewhere.
Did you have a personal favorite to play? Maybe just based on the costumes, because it's hard to top that bagel hairdo.
Do you want? I mean, the Elvis is pretty cool.
Yeah, okay, so as she knows, I went as Jobu Elvis, and it is not easy to pull off a white jumpsuit like that. So I did not have a positive experience, but you liked it?
Well, it's the pig, really. It was the pig.
Oh my God, working with a pig, of course. Yeah, no, but you rocked that jumpsuit too, so there's a difference.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I also think, well, this actually brings me to, how much did these costumes and the hair and everything help you find your characters? Because you kind of can't look like that and not feel cool, I think.
Yeah, actually the biggest challenge or the point of tension that I was curious about with Jobu is someone, when they say, like, if someone is very powerful, they never have to raise their voice. Mm-hmm. So I feel like the fun of Jobu is actually never acknowledging the fact that she's wearing what she's wearing. And so owning the costumes and feeling powerful in them, but being completely unfazed by how crazy or badass you look. So I don't even think I got to relish in them as much as, So cool. I mean, I did, but yeah, that was kind of a texture that we were really playing with.
Key for you, this film is literally about everything and requires so much commitment physically and emotionally. Where did you even begin? Did you continue to work with that same acting coach?
Yeah, I and more, because I play 3 different versions of it. Yeah. So I hired the acting coach, a dialogue coach, because I haven't spoken a written dialogue for so many years, a voice coach so that they would have just sound slightly different. And the most helpful one that I have, that I got to help me was a body movement coach. I trained with him for numerous sessions, and he had like this really interesting process. It's called the Alexander technique.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
And he would pick different animals for me to do, and I would do homework watching YouTube videos of these different animals. And the process starts where, like, you're 100%. The animal that he picked for me was squirrel. So I would be on the ground in his theater, just like crawling around. And then slowly transform into Wayman. And he picked 3 different animals. And yeah, I guess it was because this was such a hard to come by role. I wanted this for so long, and I wanted to do justice to it. And I worked really hard. I trained myself physically, and then also spent a lot of time with myself emotionally, trying to go to the places that I needed to go. I grew up in a very traditional Chinese value family, and my parents always taught me if I have anything, I need to internalize those emotions, and that's quite contradictory to what an actor does.
Yes.
So for me to really go there emotionally, I spent a lot of time just being with myself and just like persuading myself to open that door and let those emotions out. And I guess that door swung wide open because now I can't do an interview without crying,
Well, I can't watch any of your speeches without crying, so.
My wife is so sick of me getting emotional. She said, honey, can you pull back the emotion? Like, just don't cry anymore. Don't cry. You've been doing that too much. And I was in New York at the Gotham Awards, and I was like, I didn't think I would win at all, and as they were reading the nominations, it was like Mark Ryan, I said, oh my God, my hero, like Gabrielle Union, another wonderful actress. I go, there's no way that I'm gonna win. And when Emilia Jones announced my name, I looked over to my wife, and she was crying. and I hugged Stephanie, and she was crying. I hugged the Daniels; they were crying. I mean, it was quite an emotional night for all of us. Yeah.
That night was crazy. I stood up when you won. I stood up so fast, I almost passed out. And I felt like a stage mom. I was like, Kay! And then when we won, I was like, I did not think this would be an emotional
When we won Best Picture,
I could not stop crying.
Like on our way up to the podium, like I looked over to Stephanie. She was like tearing up, like tears streaming down her face. I was crying, and of course our producer, stepped up to the podium to give his speech, and he was like very, very emotional. And it just goes to show, we worked so hard on this movie because we believed in the script. We wanted to be working with the people that was, that was in this movie. And all of us, the entire cast and crew, just pour our heart into this movie for, believe it or not, 38 shooting days. And then it took 2 years before we get to see it up on the screen. And so for us to be here, it was just like, it's just so, wow, we can't believe it,
By the way, I'm pretty sure you were the only person surprised you won, because nobody else was surprised.
No, I mean, I didn't think we would win Best Picture, and certainly I didn't think I would win. But I mean, for the longest time, all I wanted was just a job. Seriously, I just wanted a job. And I remember I think all of you will understand, during the pandemic, there was no, you couldn't go into auditions. It was all self-tape. And I was auditioning left and right, and I could not get anything. And I was just so nervous because what I was experiencing when I was much younger was happening all over again. But the only difference was I was waiting like a year before I would get an audition versus now when was so grateful. There's a lot more opportunities. But for the entire pandemic, I could not get a call back, nothing. And I called my producer, Jonathan Wong, and I said, "You've seen the movie, right?" And he says, "Yes." And I said, "Jonathan, can you please tell me the truth? Am I good in it?" And he said, "Ke, why are you asking this question?" And I said, "Jonathan, I kid you not, I've auditioned more than 20 times. I could not get one job." And in 2021 went by, I was so nervous that I would lose my health insurance. And sure enough, I lost my health insurance because I couldn't land one job. And when our movie came out, everything changed. So I just want to talk to all the actors out there. All you need is just that one opportunity, that one movie, Yeah.
I want to take a couple quick questions from the audience. We have one from Mary. Wants to know, what was your favorite scene to film in this movie and why?
Okay, wait, I know I do this a lot. I go backwards. Okay, but I'm going to do it because I'm here. I just want to quickly say, yes, and it takes that one. But as Greg Popovich of the San Antonio Spurs likes to say, it is not the final blow of the hammer to the nail that breaks the stone. It is all the hundreds of thousands of hits of the nail before that final blow. And I used to think, so I just say, fuck yeah, actors, y'all are resilient. That's crazy. What we do is insane. We publicly go and say, pick me, and then get 90% no's. And I just say, I see you, hell yeah, keep going. Maybe it'll be 1, maybe it'll be 5, maybe it'll be something completely unexpected, but just keep listening to your art heart and let that take you wherever you need to go, because it shouldn't be about this one person who gives you a chance, but it is. But I just want to say, I don't know, let's break those walls down, break it down. Okay, because it's so easy to just get it. It's a really hard thing. It's really hard. It's really hard. So, we get to sit here now, but yeah, there are so many moments that are hard, and I just wished you never felt bad. I wish I could protect my father. Yes. Okay. Anyway, all right, it's late. Okay. What was the question? What scene? Favorite scene. I think I have to say I do love that parking lot scene.
Yeah.
And I love it because when I read the script, I was like, that's the movie. That's my character's journey, is that I have to do all of that just to get there. And it felt really satisfying to kind of put on the bells and whistles just to get to have a moment where we, two characters, a mother and a daughter, get to just speak to one another and have that reconciliation that so many of us don't get to have in real life, because real life is so much messier and unscripted. And I think the biggest challenge of those Joy and Jobu was that the whole time we were filming, I was holding on to what I knew had to happen in the parking lot. So there was something, we shot it in the last week, and there was something very cathartic about finally being able to be like, all of that was actually just for this. And it was one of those very special moments on set where, you know, like everyone's gathered around the monitor. Dan Kwan just told us recently that was the only night we got to go home early, because we just did 2 takes each, and then we got to go home. But you know, when you're like, oh, we're all here and we're feeling this, and this is, something's happening, this movie's gonna work. So yeah, I would say that was a special scene, and Michelle's obviously incredible in it, and just get to really see into each other. Mm-hmm.
And for you?
There was when we started production, there was one scene in the entire script that I was really nervous about. There was a lot of pressure with that one scene. So it wasn't like going into it, it was not the one scene that I was looking forward to. But I knew that I would have to deliver on the emotional side of it. And I was really nervous leading up to it. And it's that scene where Waymond delivers that powerful speech about being kind. And on the day that we shot it, there was like 2 huge wind machines. There was confetti everywhere. And there was like, we had the most amount of background actors on set, and everybody was just like talking and moving and trying to get that shot in. And I was so nervous, and I stood to the side of the, in a corner of the set, and just trying to be in that space. And I was really nervous. And then when the camera was ready, they said, roll camera. And I uttered that first dialogue, and I could not help myself. And then I just started crying uncontrollably. And I think we did 2 takes of that. And when it was over, I was still, that speech hit me so hard, I was still crying after it was all over. And Dan Kwan saw me and came over, and I just could not get out of it. And he made a funny joke, and gave me a hug and pulled me out of it. And it was that scene. And afterwards, it was the scene that I enjoy the most. But also, it was also the scene that gave me the most pressure. And yeah, I just think people resonated with our movie. It's because of what's it about. It's about love and family, but also about empathy and kindness. And if we have more of that, we will, be in a much better place. So, yeah.
I love that Daniel Kwan has tweeted out, what would Waymond do? Ask yourself, when you find yourself in a situation. Real quick before we go, because I feel like I can't pass up this question from Nicholas. What are you doing to help you take all of this in as it's happening and staying present through all of it?
Well, for me, because I know how difficult it is for me to be here, so every time I walk on a movie set, I'm extremely grateful. And one thing that I'm quite good at is I won't forget, the times that were really tough. So you can't always have all the highs without the lows to balance yourself. I just every day is a gift. Everything that's happened to our movie we just had the most blessing. Of all, in fact, I don't know if you heard it. On our first day of shooting, my wife, Echo, suggested that we should have a blessing ceremony. So we gathered the entire cast and crew together. We got an incense bowl. We passed an incense to everyone. And there was duckling, there was roasted pigs and fruits and flowers and all that. And so we had that blessing ceremony. And I think from that day forward, all of us are blessed. So being here, everything that's happened so far, I'm just so grateful. So grateful. Yeah. Thank you.
I feel like this year has been absolutely crazy, and I do pride myself on surrounding myself with people that are extraordinary, my team, my castmates, my friends, to really help me stay centered. And also staying centered feels very important to me and very sacred to me, of like humanness and not getting swept up into ideas of fame or celebrity or success, but to like really stay on the ground. But I feel like actually the biggest thing that I've done to help me understand or move through or like remember and savor this time, I've been really trying to allow myself to be vulnerable, to like when someone says thank you for this movie or thank you for your work, I'm really trying to like let it go all the way in. And even with the highs and the, let me tell you, lows, because there are some, I'm really trying to allow myself to feel into that, because the truth is that, oh no, I do get emotional. Oh no. Oh God.
I was afraid I was going to cry.
I'm fine. I'm vulnerable. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think I just am really learning so much about how much I was so afraid to love what we do. Like, I just was so scared and felt like, oh, well, it just felt so far away. And I felt like, yeah, I can be scrappy, I can do experimental theater, but I could never do a commercially successful feature film centered around people who look like me and have it be about art and not identity. That felt so far away. And so even in the peaks and valleys, when there are the lows, I'm trying to understand, like, what is that? What is that heartbreak, or what is that disorientation that I'm feeling? Oh, it's because I love what I do and I want to keep doing it. And as actors, it feels so scary all the time, really, actually, that you'll never get to do it again. And sometimes you don't get to do it again. And just trying to be honest about those feelings of like, yeah, this is something I care about, and why does it feel impossible sometimes? Or why does this structure make it feel like this could be taken away at any moment? I'm trying to unpack all that as I go through this ride, because it is a very vulnerable public-facing moment. And it is scary because, as you're hearing with Ke and his journey, or even with Michelle, this is the first time she's ever been #1 on the call sheet. Like, that's wild, but that's real. And so trying to understand it and then hopefully dismantle it in a way for myself so that this can be sustaining, like the practice of making and storytelling can really take you far, but not like far, if that makes any sense. Yeah. I think that's why I was like very adamant about the agent thing and make your own art. Anyway, yeah, it's hard. It's really hard. So is that a good answer?
Yes. I was so worried that I was going to cry during this. I actually made a bet with a friend of mine. She believed that I would, and I'm quite proud of myself that I've made it this far. Before we go, I want to ask if everyone can stay seated. They actually have somewhere to be. But also just remind everyone, this movie is available everywhere now. So watch it, pay for it again and again, because I don't know that I ever will see another movie like this, but I'd love for people to try. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you all for being a great audience.
Thank you for having us.
Here. Thank you so much.
Happy holidays.
Yes.
Thank you all for coming out. Mwah.